Let's try this again. So I'll just hit record. Like I'm not an idiot. And yeah. Okay, real quick.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a commercial for I think Planet Fitness
Uh-huh.
that I see before almost every YouTube video. If it's not one of the freaking um, gambling in North Carolina is
Oh
legal
yeah.
now commercials.
Jeez. A
Um,
million a million of those.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I was hoping that once it hit, those would stop. And they did, but they were replaced by different commercials from the same people. But at least I don't have to listen to Gronk's dumbass be like, let's go, North Carolina.
Oh, is that Gron? I couldn't place who that was.
But
But
there's a
we while we were
commercial.
watching, yeah.
There's a commercial for Planet
Go-
Fitness where I just love the intro where two women walk up to like the front desk of a gym and one of them goes, "Hey, can my friend work out?" And the dude says one word and it's the most Australian word ever. He says, like he's looking at his phone and he looks up and he goes, "No." Because no in a thick Australian accent is nar. It's like Naurgh. Nar. And for some reason that tickles me every single time.
I believe it.
Because no one else in this commercial is Australian. Like the person talking, nobody. Just, no. And I love slash hate it.
You love to hate it, or you hate
Possibly,
to
but
love it?
I also love it just because no. Like anyway, not that I'm picking on anyone's accent, but if you're Australian, I'm picking on your accent. I'm sorry. Feel free to pick on mine. I'm from the South. I sound like an idiot. Uh, I've tried real hard to not sound like I'm from the South, but sometimes it just comes out. And since the Southern accent is shorthand for idiot in basically every form of media,
Yeah,
I try real
it's
hard
true.
not to. No.
Yeah, yeah. How do you get across real quick in a movie or TV show or even novel sometimes? Oh, this person has backward views and is uneducated.
Well, shucks.
Southern.
Mm-mm.
I reckon. Anyway, hello everyone and welcome to a Dorks Just Chatting. We are Dorks and we're just chatting.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, so I'm Chewie and I'll be your ginger for this evening or morning or whatever time you're listening to this or watching
I'm
this.
Brian, and oh, I'm Brian, and I have the least hair of everybody here, both on top as well as the fact that I'm the only one that doesn't have any facial hair. I could grow it if I wanted to. Mm.
Yeah.
But what I got is brown.
Um, I'm Mike. I'm the person with the most hair, not just because I have facial hair, but the hair on top of my head is very, very long.
It is long and luxurious. And I keep forgetting
I'm
every time I see Mike that he's got even more hair than the last time I saw him. But I always forget because my mental image of Mike is still like pre-pandemic Mike.
well,
Yeah.
look at the picture that we're using on Twitch, like the one from the playmat,
Yeah, that
and
is my mental image of Mike
yeah,
still. And so every time I
yeah,
see him, I'm like, oh my god.
Mike, I can't even see you, and I want you to do the Fabio hair toss. Just do it, and I'll know that it's happening, and I'll feel better. Did you do it yet?
No, it's put up right now. But even if I
Ah,
tried, it wouldn't work very well. It doesn't really flow. Like it's thick enough that it just kind of flumps. So
There's... And I'm Dirk, the self-proclaimed greatest man alive and moral compass of the group. And I have, I don't know the best way to describe my hair. My hair is longer than it normally is, especially with the warmer weather. But I have not much in front, but I have this bridge that goes across because in the very crown of my head is a bald spot that I refer to as my yarmulke spot.
Are you allowed to refer
your
to it like that?
yarmulke spot.
Yes, it literally is the size of a crown. It's about the size of like a yarmulke.
Huh.
Like it's like like where the crown of my head is. Like
Where
if I
yarmulke
had
goes.
hair there, that would be where
Yeah.
the hair goes in a circle. The
Anyway.
actual crown of my head. So I'm like balding on top except for a bridge of hair that goes across the top of my head.
Well, at least you're not doing the comb over.
No, I refuse to do that. As a matter of fact, once in about 2 weeks, I will have no hair on the top of my head because I'm going to shave it off.
Wow.
Nice.
Send us
So
an
I
email.
will be bald haired in about 2 weeks.
My hair is still very long. And all of the stuff that was short is now growing out. And I've determined, one, I have way too much hair now. Like, because originally I was just keeping it long on top and, like, still trimming up the sides and the back. And then I just let it all go. And now if I really wanted to, I can get a lot of hair in a ponytail. But because originally only had a little bit of long hair, I bought tiny little rubber bands. And so if I try to gather up more hair, put it in a rubber band, it just breaks. So I either need new methods of putting my hair up, or I need to lose a significant amount of hair. I haven't decided yet. I don't know how we got onto hair. I blame myself.
You started it.
Yeah.
You said you were ginger.
I just meant I didn't have a soul. I don't know why we're talking about hair. Oh yeah, I also have some gray in the beard. Not terribly much, but more than I used to.
yeah, I got a couple here and there.
Getting some white streaks myself.
Renee is starting to like gray at the temples, but you can really only see it if she like puts her hair up because it's the underside, and it's very hot. She's starting to get the silver fox look, and anyway,
Right.
right.
It really is a just chatting stream now.
Yeah. Also,
But there
hi,
was
Razorback.
one thing you.
Yeah,
There is
so
one thing you wanted to talk about.
I want to start this off by letting everyone know. Oh, look, and Mike just subbed for, what does that say, 48 months? Man, that's like 2 years.
Oh wow! Wait.
Wait. No, that's.
Yeah,
I
before it would be 4 years.
think he did it on purpose.
Well, it worked.
I love it. Like someone, I forget who it is, but there's someone who always does that when they resub. It's like some stupid amount. And they're like, wow, that's like 2 years. I'm like, yeah, it is like, wait. It's good to know it works on people that aren't just me. But yes, hang on a minute. I'm probably going to cut this out to post separately on the podcast feed. So, hello everyone. I'm Chewie, as you know. If you're listening to this, you probably know who I am. Because let's be real, this is on the podcast feed. I don't know how did you get here if you don't know who I am already. But I am here to tell you something very important. Very, very important. I've been working on this for months, and it's finally almost here. I'm doing my first charity stream in, I think, 4 years, might be 5 years. I think it's 5 years. Yeah. And it is Cheevos For Charity. This will be Saturday and Sunday, March 23rd and 24th. Starting at noon and going till midnight both days. And I've got over 900. It's over 900 Steam games to give away. So come donate and win some games. It's going to be lottery drawings and whatnot. It's going to be great. We're raising money for Trans Lifeline because goodness knows it is a dangerous and also depressing time to be trans in this idiot country. You know, what with roughly half of the lawmaking population trying to, make you illegal to exist if you're trans. So I wanted to do a charity stream for a trans charity, and Trans Lifeline is right there on the front line. They're I don't want to screw this up. Let me go read. Oh yeah, when you go to their website, a little pop-up says, "Hey, if you hit escape, you'll instantly go to Google homepage because, sometimes it's not safe." But let's see. Where is the mission button? I just saw it. Trans Lifeline connects trans people to the community support and resources we need to survive and thrive. That's not enough. A grassroots hotline and microgrants nonprofit organization offering direct emotional and financial support to trans people in crisis for the trans community by the trans community. So yeah, they're one of the frontline defenses for trans people. And they're a for real charity, and they ranked very highly on all of the charity rating sites I looked at. I think I looked at 3 or 4. So they are legit, and they will use your money wisely. Thank goodness. But yeah, it's called Cheevos For Charity because I've got a big long list of achievements that I'm going to randomly select from and then go play the game and try to get that achievement and then spin again and pick a new achievement to go. It's going to be a lot of fun. I've got achievements from games like Spider-Man Miles Morales and Batman Arkham City and Alan Wake, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection, Hollow Knight, Doom, Dead Cells, XCOM, Enemy Unknown, Halo Wars, DuckTales Remastered, Dicey Dungeons, Party Hard, The Stanley Parable. And that's just glancing at a random few. Like, that was, I think, not even half of my games that I've got them all installed already. So, yes, once again, that's March 23rd and 24th on twitch.tv/themanapool, where I stream all the time. Where I'm streaming this right now. And noon to midnight, Eastern Time, both days. Come hang out, win some games, give some money. Watch me probably swear a lot at various games. I tried to pick achievements that are not like, well, some of them are going to be gimmies because they were funny, but they're not like gimmies, but not something I'd have to grind for. I think at most, some of them will take, 3-4 hours, but those are rare. Something I'd have to focus on, but wouldn't necessarily take a very long time. Mm-hmm. Like, for instance, I've got one achievement left in Sea of Stars where I have to beat the game with, beat, I think it's 10 bosses with a certain post-game item turned on or whatever that makes it harder. But apparently that takes between 6 and 8 hours. So that's not on the list. So, yes. Come hang out. and win some free games. I've got so many games. There's going to be a spreadsheet of games as we go, and the donation amount gets higher and higher and higher. I'm going to reveal more and more and more of the spreadsheet of games to give away. So I'm not giving away specific games. I'm just giving away stuff. You pick it from the list. You can sort it by genre. So it'll be as user friendly as I can make it with 900 games on it. So, all right. That is Cheevos for Charity. Please come join me March 23rd, 24th, Saturday and Sunday, all day and night. Both days. Okay? Okay. Raising money for Trans Lifeline. It's going to be good. It's going to be fun. It's going to be awesome. I only have vague memories of my older charity streams, but I remember every one of them being fun. Especially the ones with a gimmick, like the roguelikes for charity. That one was a lot of fun. And I feel like one of the other ones we did was multiplayer games, like all day and night, where I had a rotating cast of people to play games with. That one was fun too. So yeah, this one has a gimmick. It'll be a blast. I'll be all stressed out. I'm going to try to get some dorks to come swing by. Brian said he'll show up on Sunday. I'm going to try to shame Mike into coming by one day. Renee will probably be here one day. I'm going to try to get Mom to come by, because everyone loves Chewie's mom.
Mm-hmm.
Going to try to get some guests to swing by and help me entertain, chat, and play games and whatnot. Yeah. It's okay. With that, back to your regularly scheduled whatever thing. Yeah, there we go. I can just cut that out and post it on the podcast feed separately, because I really want people to be aware.
Well, sure.
Excuse me.
Try to get the awareness out.
Yeah. I'm very excited, though. Like, a lot. Because, like I said, I've seriously been working on this for freaking months. Trying to get everything set up and make sure it's all right. I'm still not even close to done, with it being, what is it now? 9 days out. Oh, Jesus. But but I will be done in time, even if I have to make stuff up. Yeah. So, hey, Mike.
Yes.
On a unrelated note, completely unrelated note, you know Power Wash Simulator?
Yeah, the 40K expansion for it.
Yeah, there's a 40K DLC that came out.
That is just wild.
Yeah.
I kind of love how they both take themselves super seriously and not seriously at all at the same time. Somehow it just works.
Yeah. Like, you can clean a Land Raider, a Redemptor Dreadnought, an Imperial Knight Paladin, a Rogel Dorn Battle Tank, and a Thunderhawk are the 5 jobs. I don't know what any of that means, but that means words. The other DLCs are like Back to the Future and SpongeBob SquarePants and Tomb Raider and Final Fantasy VII. Some of those were free, some of those were paid. But yeah, it really is a very relaxing game. But Mike already knew about it, so yeah, never mind. Screw you. How dare you know things?
Yeah, I think I saw about it on Facebook.
Whew. Well, now I'm tired. I had to get all energetic for the, like, extra energetic for the charity announcement, and now I need a nap.
Well, I guess while Chewie's taking a nap, I'll take over for a bit. So, Mike,
That hurt.
this is not just between myself and Mike, but I'm curious if you had a chance to look into that fantasy flight game we talked about last week.
I read the basic rules, and I started reading the detailed rules. I don't know why. I didn't get very far before I had to go do something else. Hadn't picked it up again, but it looks pretty interesting.
Yeah. Just because you clearly have too much money. So what's another hobby, right? So I will tell you, it's kind of funny. Chewie mentioned this. Half of the ads that I see on YouTube are for gambling in North Carolina, sports gambling. Gambling in North Carolina has been legal for a while. I remember working at the clerk's office. This would have been 2005, 2006 when the lottery came. And like everybody thought they were just going to make it. Like the clerk's office, like everyone pooled their money in for the first lottery drawing, and they're like, this will be great and we'll split it. And I'm like, you guys do know that this is the lottery is a money making device for the state, right? Like this is how this works. And like, hey, Brian, you need to, and so I remember when that happened. And to the ads, I think you're going to hear a bunch for the next month, and then for a month after that, it will taper off. And then in 3 months, people will be like, FanDuel, what? So the
Yeah.
other
For those that
half
aren't
of
in
my
North Carolina, uh, apparently some new legislature went into effect. I think 3 days ago, as of this
on
recording,
noon on noon of Monday, the what was Monday?
the 11th. Yeah,
The 11th, yeah. And
that
people on the
allows
radio were like, yeah,
like online sports betting. So places like FanDuel and whatever the other one is. FanDuel I only know because it's been vomiting ads at me
yeah.
nonstop. The other one that had Kevin Hart throwing a chicken wing in the commercial, I can't remember its
Hmm.
name, but
Well,
because of that, FanDuel has been targeting every sort of place where you see commercials in North Carolina for a long time. Like I watch a lot of YouTube, and about every other YouTube ad break is for that nonsense, and
yeah,
I really wish it would stop.
yeah. But whereas Chewy is getting Planet Fitness on the other half of his, which probably tells you I probably need to work out more. My,
No.
mine, mine has all been for a Star Wars game that's coming out, or has been in the process of coming out. I guess people were talking about like a couple months ago when some of the product was being spoiled, but the street date was March 8th. So, um, just a little bit of background. Carrie's family was in town the weekend prior, the first weekend in March, because they were there to go to Sam's Battle of the Books RAR competition, and her team won their local division, so now they're heading to regionals. Um, so yeah, they fought off enough books. It was crazy. It was spines being ripped out of the books, and anyway, so they
Wow.
came down. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then on Sunday, when the girls went to a consignment sale, her stepdad and I were like, "What are we gonna do? We don't want to go home because by the time we get home, we're gonna have to turn around and come back." So I was like, "Oh, let's go to Gaming Underground." I wanted to see if they had any Lorcana packs, and he has my stepdad or Carrie's stepdad, my stepdad-in-law, has no interest in any of this, but he was a good sport. He knew I played Magic, and we talked about it and some other stuff. I will tell you, in the store, I felt like he had a bit of a mind blown sort of thing. Keep in mind, we are all gamers. If you're listening to this, you're probably a gamer. Otherwise, hey, welcome. Not sure how you found us. For
Right?
someone that really thought of Magic as just like, I really think he thought that was like the only card game out there that wasn't like poker and that sort of stuff. He was like, "There's so many games." I'm like, "I know." I'm looking at the D&D stuff, and he's aware I play D&D, and he's going over. He's looking at the Warhammer 40K stuff, and I'm like, "You want to get some of that stuff?" And I was joking because I didn't think he had any interest. And some other guy was like, "Oh, he totally should," and da 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 da. And poor Craig is like, "I don't know what I'm." So he was a very good sport about it. And honestly, on the when we were leaving there, he was asking all these insightful questions about like, is this bigger in the South than the North? I'm like, Magic has been translated into I don't know how many languages, and I think it was a bit of a mind blown thing for him. That's a bit of a tangent, but I just thought it was great. And he's the type of person where he's not into everything, but he will always be open and receptive to new ideas. So hey, but they were doing a pre-release for Star Wars Unlimited, which is a new game by Fantasy Flight, which Mike knows more about them and their history. Um,
Yeah,
but
they
the store
mostly.
owner, sorry,
I don't
go
know
ahead.
what they. I know they've done a lot of board games, like a lot of board games, and I think they've done a few other card games, and I think also some other Star Wars card games as well.
I heard that they made Star Wars Legends, maybe, which was a really interesting game. The guys on Penny Arcade loved it and thought that it was buried too soon. But it used like cards and unique dice for each
Holy
character or
crap.
whatever.
I just went to their site and went to the board and card games category, and it just goes on forever.
Okay, yeah, they've been in the business for a while.
Well, and I've learned a little bit more. So while I was at the store, the store owner was explaining to me how the game kind of works, and I'm like, I don't need another card game to get into. I didn't tell you to stop, just keep going. Um, and by the end of it, I was like, yeah, that's actually really cool. So they let me take home some pre-release decks to play with Sam, and because of her insane homework, we haven't had a chance to do it yet. Um, but it's really interesting, and I will say I've read a little bit about it, just how to play, and I've read a little bit of commentary online. There's some negativity about the game, and it seems to be two main things. Number one is the art style. Some people feel like it's really too goofy. A lot of people mention it's like early Magic, where it seems like they really tried to let the individual artists put their own spin on some of these characters. Unlike the original Star Wars game by Decipher, this doesn't use still images from the movies. These are all hand drawn, or they're all art on these cards.
Hmm.
Um, the other criticism seems to be of the company itself and its history. And a couple people were complaining like they just make a game and then let it die and da da da. I don't have enough history with them to know if that's a fair criticism or not. But the game seem without having played it yet, I did open my pre-release pack. Sam opened hers, and we started building some decks. And then we had to stop. I got through mine, but she takes a little longer than I do. The premise of the game is that you and an opponent, and it slots very easily into multiplayer, but each have a base and a leader, and those kind of create your colors. Although you can play other color cards of other aspects or colors, they just cost more. Um, and the objective is not to defeat the opponent's leader, because you may not even be able to necessarily interact with it. It's to defeat their base. And the common bases all start out with 30 life, and some of the like rare or more specialty bases that actually have other abilities other than just to sit there and provide your color have less life to balance it out. And the other interesting thing is you take a group turn. Someone has the initiative, so they go first, but in the action phase, like the whole bunch of stuff you can do, like play a card or attack or whatever, you do one of those things, and then the opponent goes next or passes, and then goes back and forth until both of you reach the end of the turn together. And then during essentially the regroup phase, that's when you draw cards, and then at the end of the turn you untap everything and go right into the next action phase together. So I think it's interesting. I'm going to see if I can get Mike into it, and hey, maybe we'll try it twice and never play it again. But you know me and new card games, so
Yeah, you
wanted
have a
to bring that
problem.
up. I do have a problem. Is that I don't play enough card games. Actually, honestly, I one of the things I miss. I play Arena, but I miss some of the social aspects of getting together and playing cards. So
Yeah.
that's a little sad thing.
Turns out that's the
But I
only
just
part
wanted
I miss.
to. I figured I was talking to Mike about this because Chewie, you've had a couple conversations with us about how much you still enjoy looking at Magic cards, but you haven't had an impetus to really get back into the game or try other games. Is that fair? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
No, no, that sounds about accurate. Yeah.
Okay. So I figured I was talking to Mike on this one, and maybe Dirk, because Dirk likes card games and Dirk likes Star Wars. But I didn't think he'd heard about it yet.
No, I hadn't.
Okay. So, but if Mike and I ever get around to playing it, I will report back, and I'll be like, "This is awesome," or, eh. But hey, always willing to try a new game. Mike, anything? This is one of the things I want to talk about. Anything about that, or launch into something else? But I wanted to give you a chance.
Um, yeah, that shared turn, the back and forth is interesting. I remember the Mythos card game had a similar turn structure. Each person just took one action and then it went to the next. There was like a phase of like exploring and building up, and then there was this big combat phase after that, and then there was cleaned up and got ready for the next turn. The difference there was that in Mythos, the same person passing twice in a row would also end that playing phase and move on to the next. And that was true even in like a game with more than two people.
Hmm.
So if someone passed, then everyone else could guess that they just had one more action to take before that person passed again when it came back around. But the Star Wars doesn't have that. You just keep going until both people are completely done.
Right. Um, is Mythos based on a particular IP or?
Lovecraft.
Um, sort of. A lot of it's a group of authors kind of orbiting around a group of horror and weird fantasy authors kind of orbiting around H.P. Lovecraft. A lot of their uh, a lot of H.P. Lovecraft's work ended up public domain, just as how it was published. Um, Other stuff by other authors was, copyrighted according to how it was published. So I guess you could say that's an IP, maybe not in the strictest sense of the word, but yeah.
I mean, you answered my question. I mostly meant like the theme.
Hmm.
Um, so okay. Did you ever? This sounds vaguely familiar. Did you ever like play that with us or
Yeah,
show it
when
to us?
Cosmic Castle did this big,
Getting rid of
we're,
everything sale.
yeah, we're sick of looking at this stuff that's been sitting on the shelves for years, and was selling a bunch of old stuff super super cheap. So I got like I got like a display of Dreamland's expansion starter decks and like one and a half booster boxes of I don't remember which expansion for, not very much money, considering I was just a college freshman and didn't have much money. Um,
Nice.
and yeah, I put together some decks. I think AJ put together a deck too. he he took a bunch of like the best cards for his deck, so it was a little overpowered compared to the other ones that
AJ,
we got put together.
no.
Yeah.
No, I can't. I I
And yeah, I
uh,
did play at least one game with a group of you guys.
I remember us
this. I mean,
playing at least one. Was it on? I feel like it was on one of the snow days, but I
that
could be
sounds
making
about
that
right.
up.
Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, but
Maybe
because it was
maybe
scalable to however many players, yeah, we just all sat in a big circle and played.
Yeah.
maybe this is its own little mini topic here. Is other card games we've tried, even if we didn't try them for very long. Because Dirk tried to get us into, was it BattleTech?
We try to do that for a little bit.
Yeah, I remember.
And it was
And
made by Wizards, so it had the whole, you need this type of resource in order to do this, this, and that. But
I
it
remember it
was
felt like
like
there
a
was a
really bad
heavy
version
emphasis on the
of,
resources.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was really bad version of Magic.
Oh, that's coming from Dirk.
I forgot that Wizards of the Coast published a version of that after FASA, or whoever was doing the card game version before lost it.
Wizards also put out, ironically enough, a Star Wars game shortly after they got the IP, the license from Decipher. Decipher lost it, and it used like a million D6s. I remember it was the first time
Yeah.
I saw like Mike. You remember your D6 case that you have those million of which I still have the one, by the
Uh-huh.
way. Um,
But
that was the first time I'd ever seen anybody really use that many dice, because it was a lot of like, if I remember, there was like a betting phase at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, you bid for something. Was it for
Yeah.
going first in the build or something? I don't remember.
Or it
Anyway,
might have been points or something. Yeah.
yeah, 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 there was a bidding phase for something, and of course you rolled a bunch of dice for combat. There was just dice flying all over the place.
Yeah.
That
Well, I
one
remember it
had
was.
that one had three different battle theaters, right? There was a there was like a ground war battle theater and a space war and like a character to character battle theater, I think.
I think so. Yeah.
Then they
Which is
were
a
just
fairly common thing for a lot of Star Wars, because
hmm
that's when the appeals is, you can't have Luke Skywalker fight a Star Destroyer. I mean, you could, but you know, suspension of reality.
right.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a million Star Wars games over the years. That's because it's a property that a lot of people love. So, and most of these games came out before the prequels. So,
I remember I had a lot of fun playing the Decipher version of the Star Wars game with my friends in school and with my brother. Even though the decks I had were just horrible
yeah,
compared to everyone else's, it was still fun to play. Um,
that
it,
was
it could it could take a while though to play a proper game because a proper game was two games
yes, it was.
with each person playing. First game one person's on the light side, other person's on dark side, and then you switch, and then
Yeah,
you count up your remaining points at the end of each one to see who actually won.
right. I That was the first collectible card game or trading card game I ever played. My parents got my brother and I the starter set, and I read through all the rules. And the first time we played, we never finished the game because I thought you couldn't enter combat without a weapon. So I'm like, I can't find any of the weapons in this deck. I guess I never imagined Obi-Wan going up to a stormtrooper and punching him in the head. So it was an intricate game, but honestly, it's fascinating that I think about it now, about how my collectible card game, trading card game, whatever career or interest started with arguably the most complicated one, and I think that crown still holds
It
today.
was it was it was complicated, but once you got it, it was easy. It was pretty easy to remember.
hmm.
There were
Yeah,
lots of different. Yeah,
easy to learn. A lot of rules like attrition
well,
were
difficult
took.
to learn, but
Yes.
easy to remember
Okay.
once
We
you
got to get
actually learned
backwards.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It Those that have been listening to the show for a long time might remember something about backdoor shenanigans, which
Oh
you
yeah.
May
know,
or may
take
not be a euphemism.
yeah,
hmm
yeah. That's all I'll say about that. Um, if you if you remember, in that same around that same time for that same thing, we also did the Decipher Lord of the Rings game, which just ran smoother. But keep in mind, they had been making Star Wars for years, so they had a lot of the
Experience
Star
and
Wars.
hammered
Well, I
thing a
mean,
lot of issues out.
experience, exactly.
Mhm.
Star Wars was one of the first collectible card games. It did not come out at the same time as Magic, but it was fairly shortly thereafter. So this was still relatively new territory by the
Yeah.
time that they got to some of these others.
Let's see. Magic was 93. Star Wars was sometime around 96 or 97. I don't remember exactly
Yeah.
when.
When was Decipher's Star Trek game? I never played that. It never
Oh,
really appealed to me, but looking back, my understanding of it is it sounds fascinating, because it was less about combat, although I think you could combat, but it was more about like you put together a crew,
yeah, and did missions and stuff.
and the missions like would say like, all right, you need this much cunning, this much investigation or whatever, and some characters were just better at something than others. So you were trying to solve problems on your ship to win versus just like nuke everybody.
Yeah,
So I looking back, I'm like, wow, that sounds fascinating. But
that was also the intended primary path to victory for Mythos, going on the adventures
mhm.
versus just beating down your opponent until they're insane.
Holy crap.
What?
We recorded Backdoor Shenanigan. Well, we posted Backdoor Shenanigans in 2010.
Yeah,
Wow, I believe it.
we're old. Yeah. So
Let me actually look at
Chewy, I know you don't do a whole lot of card games anymore, but did you get into any others around the time that you were playing Magic, or was it mostly just Magic for a long time?
It's only ever been Magic as far as physical card games.
You did do Hearthstone for quite a while, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah. When I realized that I probably, well, because of you and Mike, who wouldn't shut the hell up about it
You're not wrong.
for so
I was
long, I
wondering if you're.
finally gave Hearthstone a try, and it sucked me in harder than you two.
Oh, I remember you would do like set reviews and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I played all of the, or did videos of all of the solo, like single player stuff, and did just countless amounts of streams trying to try out new decks. And I never did make it to Legend because I'm bad, but
Hmm.
I think I got to within 2 games of Legend once, and that was the furthest I ever got. Because I
That
didn't
the
play
grind
enough
can.
to
Yeah.
do the grind, and I didn't have enough skill or patience to actually get there.
Yeah. On on Arena, there were 2 months, I think November of last year and January of this year, where I actually made mythic status, which I was like, yes. But then in February, it was getting to be the end of the month, and I would get to one victory away. And then I'd lose like 5 games in a row with the same deck. You know how that goes. And then I'd be like, build, 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 get to two away, lose a game, win two, get to one away, and I never did get over the hurdle in February. So the struggle is real, and real is the struggle.
Okay, then.
Okay, so Decipher started their Star Trek game in 1994 and their Star Wars game in 1995.
Wow, so that was earlier than
A little
I
earlier.
realized.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you were saying we thought maybe it was like 97, but
Yeah,
no.
1997.
So they were on the ball with this trend because there's been like how many trading card games since then? Just
Stupid
throw a
number.
throw a dart at the wall for any number of books, movies, TV series. So, and I mean, I'm not complaining. Like it's a valid way to show interest in a subject or a property, but felt like if there could be a card game, there was a card game. Whether or not it even existed well as a card game, you know?
Oh yeah. I did get into another digital card game called Eternal for a little while.
I tried it and
Yeah.
I never could get into it.
Eternal was like
That one
the
had kind
sweet
of like a
spot.
Western theme. Go ahead.
Some sort of, kind of. Eternal was like the sweet spot between the simplicity of Hearthstone and the complexity of Magic. Like it was right in the middle of those.
Hmm.
And I enjoyed it, and then I realized after a while I'm playing Hearthstone and Eternal, and I don't have the time and energy to do, what was that? I don't have the time or energy to do both, so I'm gonna stop. Uh, and I stopped the one that I couldn't play on my phone.
Yeah.
That honestly makes sense.
Yeah. It was good. but not. Nah. Not enough for me to keep playing. There we go.
Right.
Now, on a semi-related note, I have gotten into several roguelike deck builder games over the years. I'm currently hooked on one called Rogue Book that I've been streaming a lot. Like a lot. But I think it started with Slay the Spire. For me, I think. Yeah, Slay the Spire is a game where you start with a very basic, you're a character and you have a deck of cards that are your actions, attack and defend and whatnot. And you pick a path. There's a path to a boss and several branches along the way with different symbols that denote, oh, this is a merchant. This is a regular fight. This is an event of some kind. This is an elite fight, which is going to be harder but gives you better rewards. And you can find cards to add to your deck and remove the bad cards from your deck and whatnot as you go. And there were 4 different characters to play as. And it is a lot of fun. But I realized I wasn't very good at it because I never did get above like the basic difficulty. Anytime I tried to go to a higher ascension, it just pissed me off. Because once you beat it once with each character, you unlock the ability to do it again but harder, and do it again but harder, and do it again but even harder, do it again but way harder. And the problem was each difficulty was set. Like Ascension level 1 did this differently. I don't know what. And Ascension level 5 always did this differently. And as you went, things just got harder. But they got harder in the same way every time. And that was an aspect of it that just annoyed me. And then I discovered Rogue Book just recently, which apparently came out in, I think, 2019? Store page. When did this game come out? Sorry, 2021.
Okay. But you're just finding it now. Well, that's kind of like how Among Us came out years before COVID, but it was then during the lockdown that people were like, hey, have you seen this yet?
Slay the Spire came out in 2019. There we go. Rogue Book came out in 2021 and just wholesale lifted the entire concept of the basic gameplay from Slay the Spire. Just, whoop, that's mine now. Like, the main thing that made Slay the Spire good was the intent system. Like, it was turn-based, and every turn you could see what each enemy was gonna do. Like, oh, this enemy's gonna attack for 15. So you knew that you needed to find some way to, build up enough block to absorb that or lower its power somehow or kill it before the turn ended or you were taking damage. And Rogue Book just wholesale just lifted that. Whoop, that's mine. But they added a second party member and made positioning matter, which opens up just a whole world of gameplay. And the map, instead of just being picking branching paths, you're on a hex-based world, and you're in a storybook, and you have brushes that reveal a radius around your character, and you have various inks that you can get as rewards for combat that will reveal more of the map in different ways. And as you reveal things, you can pick up piles of gold, or find more fights, or find a vault that has cards in it, and it shows you, 3 cards, and you pick one. It even says draft a card, because you're drafting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so it's Slay the Spire's combat, but with a second character, which is awesome. And it completely overhauls the map. And after you beat it once, you get the ability, sort of like in Hades. When you beat Hades, you get the ability to add heat to your run by selecting a difficulty modifier from a list. You know, like, oh, if you step in a trap, it deals, 100% more damage. That's 1 heat. Up to stuff like, there's a time limit on each chapter. And you can bump that up to where you have virtually no time and you got to do it very, very fast. And Roguebook does a similar thing to where there are 3 categories, like wealth, exploration, and enemies. I don't remember what they're called, but like the run that I'm currently in the middle of, when the character in the front plays a card, they take 2 damage. And I've been terrified to even try that. I'm trying it off stream because I'm like, I don't know how to do this, because healing is at a premium in this game. In most games like this, but you can find little hearts items that you can use whenever to heal each character for 10. But like when you're at, I don't know, 30 and your max health is like 85, healing for 10 doesn't really do anything. So yeah, I've had to employ a strategy of, I've got my meat shield in front of me, who I always put in the front, and who has a bunch of cards that either move him to the front or that add block. And then my main attacker is always in the back. And he's the one doing most of the damage. And thus far, it's actually working out way better than I anticipated. Before I left to go do my DoorDash shift today, I made it to... I didn't fight the boss. I made it to the second boss. I did the elite fight right in front of the second boss and was like, huh. No, I did fight the boss. I can't remember. I think I did. I'm pretty sure I made it to the 3rd and final chapter relatively unscathed. And I was like, oh, this is cool. But
nice.
Yes. But yeah, each level of the difficulty has an amount. So like the one that says, instead of the towers, that if you make your way to a tower and stand on it, it'll reveal like a 3-tile radius around it. Instead of those, there's lantern fairies that you have to go fight. And if you beat them, then it'll reveal a 2 radius, but there's more of them, or whatever. Like that one, I think, has a difficulty variable of 1. Excuse me.
Do you see story as you go along, or is it a bit light on the story? Or
you're trapped in the rogue book, and there are various things that characters will say and see that hint at things, and I think there's more story once you finish, like, epilogue, like, level 15 extra difficulty, I think. But it's mostly for the gameplay.
Okay.
Like, the little story things that pop up aren't really part of the narrative. They're just things that happen to your characters, and then you pick an option. Like, sure. Oh, a dude runs up at you really, really fast. You can either race him or train with him. And if you, depending on which one you pick, you'll either get a treasure that does this, or you'll get a card in your deck that does that. Or whatever.
Okay. I am generally a story player for a lot of video games, but not always. You can tell that a lot of my first video games after Mario and Zelda were RPGs. But like, I remember you did the introduction stage in Heroes of the Storm, and Jim Raynor turns to Uther and is like, why are we trying to knock down the opponent's base? And Uther's like, don't think about it.
Yeah.
Just go with it. And I'm like, I can appreciate that. At least Uther didn't turn to him and say, I see you've never played League of Legends.
Let me tell you about a game called Dota. that was blatantly stolen from us.
Ironically, from Blizzard. So,
Mhm.
hey, Dirk, you've been quiet for a little bit. What other card games have you played, especially earlier in your card game career?
If I had to go with card games, I'd have to go with digital card games. And when I say digital card games, I mean games inside of video games, like the
Triple
what was
Triad.
yeah, what was the one that was in Final Fantasy VIII?
Triple Triad.
That was that one. Yep, Triple Triad.
I remember they tried to do it with 9, and it just wasn't.
I can't even
Yeah.
In
remember
some
what that
ways,
one
the
was
game.
called. I didn't
Was there a
play
card
8.
game in 9?
Yeah, there's a card game in 9. I didn't even play 8.
Oh, that's
and I know
right.
Triple Triad. I did play 9. Have no idea what that's called. Chifuji says
And-
Tetramaster.
That hex something.
Tetramaster.
And
Oh,
the game Tetramaster in 9, there was a point in the story you actually had to play to advance.
right.
At no
in the,
point,
Dark
at no point, at no point in 8 did you actually have to play the game. You were encouraged to, especially for item synthesis. Is that what it was called, or
think
whatever that
so.
was?
Something like that.
But and that was honestly a way to break the game. I never did that because I didn't want to lose my rare cards. Come on, I'd worked so hard for them. I also wasn't trying to be at like max level by the end of disc 1. But hey, to each their own. Whereas, so it's funny in the game, the game where you didn't have to play, everybody remembers it, and in the game where you didn't have to play, everybody remembers it. In the game where you did have to play, no one. I'm mixing it up. You're getting what I'm saying.
right.
I feel like Tetra, whatever, in 9, the gameplay was a little more interesting, but the screen was smaller because you could play more cards. So as a result, in 8, it was a 3x3 grid, right? So everything was pretty front and center, and you could read everything. In 9, it was a bigger board, and the arrows were smaller and the numbers were smaller. So a lot of the time, I'm like, I don't even know what this card does. I'm just gonna play it because I don't feel like the rules were always super clear. Did you guys feel that way?
Yeah, it was like whatever number was on it on the card, and yeah, there was one, and I don't remember if it was 9 or 8, where you had the numbers on the side, but there were rules. The thing that always made me so mad was if your card was able to beat another card, if it had the arrow pointed to another card that it move its color to, you could end up with one card going from I have every card's color, like all the cards are my color, and then the opponent will play a card and it will almost completely shift the color pie their way. Because
I
of
think
the way the arrows and the numbers worked, it would just it would push the color all the way to on their side.
Yeah, I think they did that on purpose. Well, they programmed the whole thing. They did it on purpose, but I think they did it that way because they didn't want it to be just, bigger number wins, and I think they wanted to add complexity to it. But I'm with you. I feel like ultimately it was to the detriment of the game as a whole because it went from being understandable to feeling like I don't know what I need to do to win.
Like,
You know?
yeah, I remember sitting, like, just watching my brother play it several times, and there were so many moments where we're just like, what just happened?
Yeah.
Or what is this cheating nonsense?
Because
Yeah.
they would play a card where it was you had put all the cards down on your side, and all of your defenses were strong on your side, but then they had a card that somehow was the one card that would go after the one corner you didn't have anything for,
Yeah.
and would end up turning over half the board their color. And you're just going, wait a second. They only had one card, and now all my cards are now
Right.
there.
And I mean,
Oh, it
like,
made me so mad.
and to what you guys are saying, like, I get math. Like, I get, like, oh, bigger number wins. But it was the rules that you didn't always see on the card. Bless you.
Thank you.
That you were like, I don't understand. Like, I played this card and it had a 7, so that beat a 5, and then he played a 0, but it shouldn't win, but it won because of BS rule that I've never heard of. So
Yeah.
again, like, if I understood, okay, this is how the game works, I get it. But if I feel like an idiot because I don't understand what the cards do, then I don't like it. So,
It made me
Hmm.
it made me think about the Game Boy Yu-Gi-Oh game that my brother had. I was just like, both of them, man. I have no idea what's going on. I just put a bunch of high cards with high attack in my deck and hope for the best. It's like, because
so
it was
a
kind of
couple.
weird, like rock paper scissors thing going on with some of the elements.
Hmm,
Sometimes, not all the time. It's just like I don't get it.
Hmm.
I bought some Yu-Gi-Oh just a bit when it came out in the U.S. because I was like, again, like Chewie said earlier, I have a problem. And I like trying, I think it just comes from, I just like trying different games, whether it's video games, board games, whatever. The only problem with doing that with card games is you have to buy the pieces. So it doesn't necessarily stay cheap or even affordable. But I definitely bought some Yu Gi Oh! And played a little bit, honestly, we said his name earlier, with AJ. And it, especially in the early days, it just seemed to come down to bigger monster. But the game has been out now for a long time. And it's been very successful. Like, a lot of people still play. It's Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, and Pokemon are the big three, basically. A couple of years ago, they released a digital version where you could actually play Yu-Gi-Oh online, and it was, I think, Dual Links.
Yeah.
And I did it. Um, but the problem, and I enjoyed a lot of it. But the problem is so many cards that got played. I don't know the state of Yu-Gi-Oh now, but there's so many cards that got played were walls of text. Just like can't even try to read all of it. And on the little screen and the way the game is working, like when somebody plays a card, if it has an effect, it goes ahead and resolves it. So you have all these cards suddenly that the opponents chain together from like they play one, they search out three in their deck and they go and one does this and then it's like five things happening all at once and I can't even follow it because it's not like Magic Arena where it's like okay, you can pause it to see what's going on. And it was just like headache inducing because I didn't under I'm like I just play a big guy and they got blown up and I get you blow up big guys in car games. I get that. But the chains of everything, like if you didn't know what the card did, the game is not going to explain it to you. I just know that at some point there was this silver samurai looking guy that as soon as the opponent played, I might as well just be like, okay, good game, because it would allow him to play like 12 other things that turn. In a game where you're really meant to play like one monster a turn, you can do like all of them and they can all attack right away and you're just done. And I'm like, cool, bro. Nice. A lot of people love Yu-Gi-Oh. I'm not bashing it. I'm just saying, like, I had the hardest. The game doesn't teach you how to play, or at least not at any sort of advanced level.
Ha! You just activated my trap card.
Yes.
I don't know what that means.
It means pretty much what it sounds like it does.
I mean, so at least in the beginning, there were exactly three types of cards: monster cards, which are characters or creatures; spell cards, which were basically sorceries; and traps, which were instants but couldn't be played. Like you play them face down on your turn, but you had to at least wait until your opponent's turn to flip them up, and sometimes had conditions. It and like magic, great things can come out of simple setup. Like just having those as a floor meant that they could get really innovative with the execution of those. But my understanding is they've added so many layers to it. So
I don't know, man. I've also never played any Yu-Gi-Oh games.
Seen people play Yu-Gi-Oh, but that doesn't mean I know anything that's going on.
When I was playing, there a lot of what they do is they like try to the sets that come out. It's felt like they tried to push certain archetypes, and they were really pushing a Red Eyes Black Dragon archetype to the point that like it was being played a lot. And I'm like, here's my blue eyes, and they're like, okay. So you may recognize some of these names.
Yeah, I got nothing.
Okay. Well, something I had jotted down on my list of things to talk about is card game related, but it's I really want to have just a quick discussion. I don't think this is enough for like a full episode, but power creep in general. So you guys know I've played a lot of mobile games. I'll usually try one,
Hmm.
and if it's good, I'll stick with it for a while. Um, I don't think there's been a single one that I've played consist. I played Marvel Strike Force for probably the longest right now, which is a hero collector, and I really like it. A couple of years ago, can't tell you how many, but the game just celebrated, I think, its sixth or seventh anniversary. So probably shortly after it started, I was playing a fighting game, Dragon Ball Legends, and it was unique because it wasn't an RPG. So many mobile games are either you know like turn based because that's easier to do with a mobile device, or something like Angry Birds or whatever. And I'm overgeneralizing, but to have a fighting game was really fascinating, and I tried it for a while, and then I kind of got to the point where I just wasn't getting enough resources to really pull for characters, and so I let it go. Um, and like 2 months ago, I had heard about it. I was like, you know what? I really did enjoy that game. I've still got it on my profile. I'll just re-upload it. I kept all my profile. I kept all my characters, and I did a couple polls, and I've got a couple good ones. So I feel like I'm back into it. But they've released so many characters over the last couple of years, and I had a Gohan that I was so proud of that I pulled before, and it was cutting edge, and like I'll load this in, and it just cannot do anything like at all. I'm It was a unique character at the beginning, and it's been power crept.
Hmm.
And I think the reason they do that for a lot of these is they want you to pull the new stuff. They don't want
Hmm.
you to rely on a character from 4 or 5 years ago. So I thought we could have if you guys want, I thought we could have a quick discussion about, is power creep acceptable or not, and what is the context? Because I think for something like an RPG, power creep is going to happen like as you play the game. That's kind of the point, is progression. You get stronger and enemies get stronger. The imp that you fight in the first forest of beginners, official name, is not going to be as strong as the color that the palette changed imp in the final tower that can eat your characters for breakfast.
Yeah.
But I've also complained
But
about,
that's
you
not
remember
power
when
creep.
No, that's
That's
just
game progression.
that's
that's
just
just game
progression.
progression, and
Yeah.
maybe that's a point of comparison.
Yeah.
So
Power creep is when you're talking about a game with collectible pieces, and just progressively as time goes on, the new pieces just start gradually outclassing the old
right,
pieces, and the old pieces are just useless.
Hmm.
I remember when was it Rise of the Eldrazi came out, and they made uh the creature for one and a white, the 2/2 with level up, and I'm like, this is just Eager Cadet with an upside, and I guess Eager Cadet isn't that great, and then they put Eager Cadet in the same set at the same rarity. And I was so upset. I remember ranting about that
I
during those
remember, yeah,
previews.
Yep.
So
because it just
I
looks
was,
bad.
it looks bad. And it just feels like, oh, the one guy who in Sealed is like, I got two Eager Cadets. And the other guy's like, I got two of this. And it's just better. Like, again, not even different rarity. So that is power creep.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And like you brought up with the gotcha games. Okay, so one, all gotcha games are corrupt and immoral and are just trying to separate you from your money. All of them.
Yep.
All of them. Yes, even that one you like. I know Chifuji's in the chat. Yes, all of the ones that you like. They are there
Yeah.
to hook you and entice you to give them money. And as soon as that stops working, they shut them down. Like,
Yeah.
that's all any of them are. I've only
Yeah,
ever
that's the business
played
model.
one, and it was Final Fantasy Record Keeper. And I ran into that problem that Brian mentioned of, all right, this character that I pulled or weapon or whatever it was, I don't even remember how Record Keeper worked anymore because it was a long time ago, who was awesome for a long time. I noticed eventually that I wasn't putting him in parties anymore because he was worthless.
Because
Well,
it was worthless. Even though at the time he was cutting edge.
Yeah, I was like, this was like when I got this character. I remember Brian cussed at me because he didn't get him. I don't remember this weapon. It was a weapon that gave him a limit
I
break of some sort.
believe I believe the way it worked was you could unlock every character through story progression except for maybe some specific events or whatever to get Sephiroth. But you had to pull the weapons that really made the characters better. And honestly, I don't mind that because I think most of the time, if you're going in for the experience, you're like, especially at the time, it was so unique to be like, see these 3D characters in pixel, like Squall. You want to play with the characters. Now, you also want them to do well, so you go for the weapons. But in other games where, like, you have to basically roll the dice to even see if you get the character, that to me is more of a feel bad. But continue.
Well, I
Well,
mean,
the way
it's
it
just.
used to,
Oh,
the
go
way it
ahead.
worked was you, like each week, or it was like, I think it was every 2 weeks or so, they would have a new character come out.
Yeah.
And you would work your way to getting the character, and then you could potentially get enough points by playing that you could roll for like a loot box. And randomly the loot box would have like, here's some cool armor from that game, or you get the special weapon, but you could always pay the money to get more loot boxes to hopefully get the item you wanted. Um, but the way you progress in the story was you could play any character from any game in your party, but if you played characters from the game that the story is taking place at the time, they did
Mhm.
more damage.
Right.
So if you were in the Final Fantasy 3 one, you wanted to get Final Fantasy 3 characters. Well, then they did new characters. Like I said, every month, every week or every other week. So you spent
I
like
think
the
it was,
whole week trying to
yeah.
build up enough stuff to get the character.
Yeah.
And then once you had it, you're like, all right, finally, now I can put a party of 4 from this game, and now I can do this one section. But they released them randomly, and yeah, you got a couple of them in the story, but they didn't have their special weapon, and you had to play with them to level them up, and blah 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 blah. So, but if you gave them their weapon, like, they were much stronger, and they could deal all this great damage, and so you spent all this time trying to do it.
Oh yeah.
And
You
then
definitely
occasionally they would
wanted
release.
them with the weapon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And then they would, like Chewie was saying, is that the next one would come out. Oh, well, this one works for this character and this character, and it's better. And so you were always trying to get the weapon that would work on these characters and so on.
Yeah, I found in the Final Fantasy Renaissance Discord actually. There was a massive discussion in one of the channels about Record Keeper, and they were rattling off stuff from like later in its life that I had never heard of because apparently I got out before the crazy nonsense started happening. Because
I think I did
again,
too.
power creep. Like they had to
Yeah.
give you more things that you needed to get that were worth getting, and the only way to make it worth getting is to make them do more and be better.
Yep.
So, like, if you pulled the top thing from, year 2, that would be an actual joke by the end of like year 5.
Yeah.
Like, why would you ever play that? That's crap.
And we've talked about that in Magic, because there was shock, and then there was fire. It was a
Lightning bolt.
firebolt,
Well,
lightning bolt.
Lightning Bolt came out first,
Hmm.
and then they printed Shock to try to balance it because Lightning Bolt was considered too good for a long time. Then when they brought Lightning Bolt back, it was a huge deal. That can be considered power creep. The way that I
Well,
think Magic does a decent job of. I know not everybody loves set rotations, and I
That
get that.
and that's the thing. In a game where the pool of game pieces rotates, then you can get away from power creep. You can have the pendulum swings. You can just have cards doing
Exactly.
different things. And for a long time, lightning bolt was the standard for 1 mana red removal and damage. And then for a long time, so was shock. And then for a short period of time, lightning bolt was in the standard again. And it wasn't just because, oh hey, and it wasn't just lightning bolt is back in a vacuum. There was also different things about the creatures that were printed at the time, so that lightning bolt wasn't just running around giving everyone's the people's elbow all the time. The creatures were different too. But then another pullback, shock takes its place. Creatures are a little different. In a game where you don't have a rotating cast of pieces, power creep is the only way to make the new pieces worth playing, because you're going to run into a limit of how many just different things that balanced equally balanced game pieces can do. You're going to run into a limit of how many different angles that they can operate from. Like for Final Fantasy game, if 1 week they were like, hey, here's this new character that was no better than, or even possibly objectively worse than all the other characters up to that point, no one would care. People wouldn't engage. People wouldn't spend money, like Chewie was saying.
Mhm.
So they have to creep it. Now, if I remember correctly, neither Decipher, neither of Decipher's Star Wars or Lord of the Rings games um, had rotating formats.
I
oh, we
know that at
and
one
and there
point,
was visible, noticeable
power
power
creep.
creep over time.
Yeah,
If you
I
were involved in the games from beginning to end, and could see that progression, it was there. It was definitely there.
I remember that after the release of Jabba's Palace set, they started sponsoring an event that they were encouraging local stores to do called Bespin and Beyond,
Hmm.
basically to say, okay, and that way they're not relying on the same cards that have been around since the first set. So almost like reverse power creep. Like kind of you remember how Magic did the thing where they wanted you to play with so many cards from the newest set or whatever. And so Ice Age everybody was running, was it serrated arrows? So
Yeah, they
that
they were using serrated arrows to fill out the
right.
homeland department. Uh-huh.
So they don't want you to rely on the old stuff. They wanted you to use some of the new stuff. So I think they were trying to break up. Oh, we don't want to see the same decks we've seen for the last 4 years or whatever.
Hmm.
So, um, but that's the only time. I also didn't play a whole lot competitively, to be honest. But that was the only time I really remember any sort of format being mentioned at all that wasn't just light side versus dark side. And I
Yeah, I
don't
would.
think there was with Lord of the Rings. Go ahead.
Hmm. I feel like it was. I feel like it was around Jabba's palace where the crux really started to show in the Star Wars power creep, and then it felt like the few. I didn't. I wasn't actively playing the game after that, but I would still look at news about new sets every once in a while, and it felt like the creep just accelerated after that
Oh,
point. But yeah, I,
I
I
re-
know, talking to people who played Lord of the Rings, that also whenever a new set would come out, there were very few things from previous sets that were not just outclassed completely.
I can tell you, okay, there probably was power creep all along at some point, but I can tell you exactly where, at least in the people I talked to and played with, a lot of power creep became very obvious with Star Wars.
Hmm.
And okay, you remember when Wizards, I don't know, they've done this in a while, but Wizards put out the Planeswalker decks shortly after they introduced Planeswalkers. They put out like Jace versus Chandra, but then they
Yeah.
also started putting out, remember how they made a lot of planeswalkers that were unique to those decks? You remember how they made them purposely suck?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
like they were very upfront about that.
yeah.
This is why Decipher at one point released boxed product where you could buy theme decks, and the showcase card would be a character, and it'd be a character in one card. It would be like Luke with Luke's like lightsaber. Usually,
Uh
when
huh.
you play, you have to find Luke in your deck, play him, and find his lightsaber, and pay an additional cost and put it on him. So it's like finding a creature and an enchantment. But the synergy for these was stupidly high. They were ridiculously good for their cost. They had extreme card efficiency, like just through the roof. These were the best characters for their cost, period. And how did you get them? By buying a very specific product. So it was kind of a nightmare situation because
So like a
you
Nexus of
had
Fate thing.
exactly. So when
Oh.
Wiz, yeah, 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 it was bad. So it was like a perfect storm of all of that. So when Wizards then put out like the Planeswalker decks, and they're like, okay, we're gonna make sure these aren't tournament staples, and they really watered them down, and people still looked at them to be like, okay, because it's a problem if anyone could just go in and pay $30 or whatever for the tournament staple. Remember True Name Nemesis?
Yep.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, that's an even better example of what you're talking about.
Yeah, I had that clicked. I have a set of them because I found them. I found some of those at Target, and I was like, I'm getting them. I felt a little bit about it, a little bad about it, but I got four, and I said I'm good. I will hopefully. I pulled other cards out of those decks to use them in other things, but it kind of felt like I don't know. Everybody else was doing. I don't know. Felt like it was right there. It felt like it was right there, and it was like a. And I don't even play Eternal formats, but yeah. So for the uninitiated, Mike can do a better job of explaining what I'm talking about. Ah, dang! I can't
Which
construct.
which part
The
of that do you want?
I was
true
gonna
name
say, what in the
Nemesis.
hell are we talking about?
So true,
True.
true name Nemesis. Okay, that's the Merfolk 3/1 for one blue blue. That when it comes in, you choose a player. It has protection from that player. All right.
Right. Correct.
So that was one of the new unique cards in the the original Nekusar commander deck,
Correct.
and that's a good card, and it immediately people recognize how good it was. The the price of the Nekusar deck in any retailer who was paying attention, meaning like not
Hmm.
the big box stores who were just putting stuff on the shelf and putting a sticker on it. The price for the Nekusar deck shot up ridiculously because of this high demand card that became like a legacy staple from day one.
Hmm. Day one.
Hmm.
And part of the problem is that was the only way to get it.
That was the only way to
You
get.
you couldn't go and open boosters for it. You just went and bought the product. And if
Yeah.
you could find it MSRP, great. But um there's
Hey,
something
you want to know
weird
something funny?
about what's
What?
that?
The Commander 2013 edition True Name Nemesis TCG player mid is $3.
Ha! Well, I think
It
they
got a reprint in
released
Battle Bond.
it
Yeah.
got a reprint, so yeah. But at the time,
Yeah,
it
and
was
also I
kind
think
of nice.
like that version of Stoneblade just isn't. Those versions of Stoneblade just aren't as popular anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I got curious and pulled it up, and yeah, $3.
sure.
That's
But yeah,
crazy.
it's fun. It's funny. You'd almost think that we would be like, okay, that's kind of cool. Instead of a lottery system where you have to pull cards, you can just go buy it. And that almost sounds more fair except it's really not,
Yeah.
because scarcity was an issue, and
And it's
And
not
you're
like you
talking about a
could.
sealed commander product, so it's not a $4 booster pack. It's a $40. It's like a MSRP $40 commander deck,
yeah,
and it,
that you
it
may
might
only be
be it might be
wanting one
80
thing
to
out
it
of.
might be $80 to $100 if it's really hot.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that gets you one copy.
Hmm.
yeah,
Let's not forget, if you're playing Legacy, you needed 4 of them.
yeah.
But like, and it's not like you could go spend $40 on it, because chances are, if you went to Walmart to try to find them, or Target or whatever, sharks had already come in and grabbed them all and bought them and taken
Yep.
them home to sell them on eBay for twice or 3 times more than what they just paid. So unless you happen to stumble into them, so you couldn't even get them for $40 or whatever the MSRP was.
Not usually. I lucked out, uh, but not everybody was so lucky. This was the issue I was complaining about last year after Lorcana came out. Is that Ravensburger did not appreciate the demand. They understocked, and a ton of people took advantage and just scooped it up, and were selling on eBay for literally 3 to 4 times MSRP. Booster boxes were being sold for $250, $300 a box. And luckily, they've solved a lot of those issues, and it's good. But it was a problem with the company, compounded by people taking advantage. So yeah, same concept. So I realized I said power creep. I mentioned something that's not power creep, it's progression. And then we got into this almost economics side of it. But to be fair, economics are a part of it, where if a card game is competitive, people will then pay at a certain level for cards, and the harder it is to get, or the more pushed it is, the more you have to spend, generally speaking. So,
Hmm.
but other examples of power creep in any other kind of game, card games is what kind of comes to mind,
I mean,
um,
The the
along
one
with
that
mobile games.
the one I bring up is, having played World of Warcraft for a really long time,
yep.
that
Okay,
as soon as the next set comes out, the new expansion comes out, instantly there's power creep.
how so? Like just new
So
classes,
there's
or
Year.
yeah, it's so there's the expansion, and then there's the like the um trying to think of with like the DLC, not really DLC, but it's the thing that, like, the next update, the major
Hmm.
updates or patches. There you go. That's the word I was looking for. The patch. So there's the beginning of the story, and then they've patched their way up to the final. This is the what we're working our way up to, sort of thing. And in order to get to the final end, you have to, have uh, gained your level, your max level, and then you run dungeons in order to get geared up so you can run the raids. And then you have to keep doing that until you're able to get to the final boss in that expansion. And that takes a whole long time. You get yourself geared up, you do all this stuff, and then boom, great job, guys. High fives all around. We've done all this amazing stuff. Then when the next expansion comes out, the stuff that you had worked for 2 years to, craft, go through all these raids and dungeons and all this stuff to get, it is slightly better than the uncommon gear that you'll get after you gain like a level or two into the expansion. So that means by the time you max level and you're ready to run your first dungeon, the gear from the previous expansion that you had spent 2 years grinding and getting yourself up to, that gear is just garbage. Like, it will
wow.
not compete. And like an example of that is, when I played Cataclysm, which was the third expansion in WoW. With just, like, we're gonna call rare gear, rare level stuff. It's blue level gear. I could then run raids in the first expansion, Burning Crusade. I could run all the raids solo. A 20-man raid that required everyone to be fully geared.
And you're doing it with
I could do it
gear.
with rare level gear. We're not talking about legendary or like epic level gear.
Yeah, just
I
blue
was
stuff.
running it with rare level gear, and I could solo the dungeon. I could solo the dungeon, and I could almost solo the raids.
Wow.
By myself.
That is
Whereas previously you
absolutely
needed
an
a
example
20-man
of
group.
power creep. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that would be an example of power creep. And they've on 2 separate occasions had to level squash. So the power creep was so bad that, when the numbers pop out of people's heads when you hit them, it's 2 numbers. Oh, we're up to 3 numbers now. Oh man, guys, we're doing really damage, and we're getting up to like 4. Well, by the time they got to Cataclysm and they were moving into the next set, by the time they got to Legion, they had to squash the level on it because the level at that time was 120. The original WoW, vanilla WoW, was level 60 was as high as you could go. We'd worked our way up to level 120, and the numbers popping out of people's heads was in the millions. So they had to level squash. So they reset. Do what?
Go ahead.
So what level squashing is in order to make it so the numbers are not literally covering the whole screen, they squash the levels back down to level 60, and everything that you had acquired before was now level 50. You maxed out at level 50. So vanilla, Burning Crusade, Wrath, Cataclysm, and Pandaria, all of that was level 50. You could pick which one you wanted to go through. But essentially all of them were the same thing in terms of levels. And the numbers popping out of people's heads was squashed back down into the hundreds.
I was gonna say I remember
because the numbers were too big coming out of people's heads when they were.
I just start using scientific notation. See a little 10 to the 12. It's like, oh boy, I think I saw a 13. I think I saw a 13.
I played the Kingdom Hearts mobile game back in the day, Union Cross, and they had a similar thing where when you got started, again the damage was in the hundreds or whatever, but you attacked by using metals, and the metals would represent characters or things from Kingdom Hearts, like Sora, a bajillion Soras, Disney characters, things like that. And each one that you pulled would be a little stronger than the last one, until, like you said, I would go into the arena, and each one would be like so many digits, like so many. I'm looking at Carrie and I'm like, I don't know what this place means anymore. Is that 10 million or 10 billion? I can't count it fast enough. So at one point, all the damage was reduced and the defense was increased. It was less about levels, but they condensed it so that you'd be able to read it again. But the problem is they weren't done making money, as Chewie put it. So slowly but surely, the damage kept going back up again. The defense increase was not keeping up with it. And that game actually is now done. And to be fair to the designers, they set it up so that you can continue to play it offline. You just won't get medals or whatever. But I enjoyed it for a long time. It was surprisingly deep with some of the strategy, but I'm looking at it and I'm like, how it's like 24 to the 20 places. Like I don't even know what this represents anymore, So
But WoW got so far into that they level squashed the first time, and then they level squashed again.
Wow, twice now?
They had to squash the level twice.
And that's basically the same thing as a gacha game. Like World of Warcraft has always been about attacking the parts of your brain that are addiction. and making you keep paying the subscription. So it works basically the same way. Like,
Well,
oh
the thing
no.
with is there's a lot more to it than that because I was into it. Like you guys know, I was really into it. But then there came a point where I was like, I'm done with this, and it had to do with after you've they went about a route where they did what is it where you've got borrowed power. Borrowed power is what they called it. You're given this great, amazing thing that you're going to relinquish at the end of that expansion. So the artifact weapons were amazing. They were great. You got to have all these weapons that have this lore attached. And then at the end of the expansion, the artifacts lost their power in order to save the world. And then the next expansion, you got a magic thing that, has all this great, amazing power and is able to get you through the whole expansion and everything. And at the end, it's used up in order to save the world again. And then the next, it ruined it for me.
Do
And
you keep the item? It's just not as
you keep
good?
the item, but when the next expansion occurs, the item has no power to it. So once again, you're back at square one.
So, to use a magic analogy, when this card comes out, it's definitely mythic, but at the end, at set rotation, it loses abilities and turns into a common.
Right.
It turns into an eager cadet. Oh no.
So and a lot of the abilities you had, and I mean, the for the couple years, that couple years, like the first year it was awesome because we were into it, and then when we found out, we're gonna lose this thing, and then the next time, whoa, we're gonna do this instead, and we're all just going, okay, well, that really was awful the first time, and now we're willing to bet this is gonna happen again, and when it happened again, essentially, WoW took a dive. And that's when the whole Shadowlands thing came out, and everyone's just like, "Yeah, we're good, we're done." And that's when I left. I was done. Um, but it's
Everything
that gold,
changed when
and
the
that the
when the
currency
Shadowlands
has
attacked.
also done some weird things because inflation is bad. And any game that has been going on that long, inflation is awful. When I played Vanilla WoW, if you got a gold piece, like one gold piece, you meant that you had played and hadn't done anything to spend your money for like from level 1 to about level 40. And you're talking about weeks, a month of just playing the game to finally get one gold piece.
Just saving up.
Just saving up, not spending it,
Yeah.
not doing anything, like one gold piece. It like took forever. Um, when the next expansion comes out, you can get 10 gold pieces and by, just doing a couple of quests. And now, I mean, there are so many money sinks that they try and put gold into just to take gold out of circulation. There was a mount in BFA that I think was like it was at least 1,000,000 gold to get the mount, and it was meant as a money sink for all these people who kept like farming money and then just doing whatever. It was meant as a money sink because they were trying to take gold out of circulation. It was so rampant.
I remember in like way back in the day, and for Diablo 2, the economy for like high-end items trading didn't even use gold anymore. It was all based on like another legendary drop called the Stone of Jordan. Like that was the basis for people, you know, for people trading high-end, um, legendary and those super rare items with each other.
Because gold was
Stone of Jordan was
basically
the currency for it. Yeah.
because gold was so plentiful and there was nothing else to really spend it on.
Yeah,
Or
and
or
like
not.
to get the equivalent, like a person couldn't carry enough gold in their inventory to really represent the value of what people were trading at.
Right.
Because of the way gold took up, yeah, you were limited in how much gold you could have on your person.
What game was that?
Diablo 2.
Diablo 2.
Okay. Weird.
Has anybody played Diablo 4? I played 3, but I haven't
Never
played
got around
4.
to it.
Do it either.
I don't know if I will. I think my laptop is too crummy to try. I'd have to get a better computer first if I wanted to.
I have
Certainly,
been
yeah.
debating how long I will hold off on getting a PS5 now that Rebirth is out. And so far, I've avoided all spoilers.
Me too.
So. I
I
remember
heard
after-
Sephiroth's in this one.
Yeah.
Ha!
Yes,
Spoiler!
I heard that too. But
It's hard to load up.
But like, I remember after Remake came out, like every YouTube video that was suggested to me was like, "Here's all this stuff," and I'm like, "La la 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 la," and I did get spoiled on one or two things, but not a whole lot. But this time, I don't know if it's just new enough, and because it's on PS5, but I haven't really seen all of the stuff, and that's a good thing.
I mean, you also
So-
don't live on the internet. Although,
I also don't
I
live on the
do,
internet.
and I haven't seen anything. I did see there's a channel that I'm subscribed to, what are they called? Final Fantasy Union, who, like, the second day the game was out was like, Final Fantasy Rebirth, ending explained. And I was like, appreciate you loading that
Thanks.
up right there so I can see not to click on that one. Nice. Because
I have,
being a
I've
lowly
watched-
PC player, I'm not going to get to play it for another, like, 2 years. So, piss.
Yup.
I have watched a lot of their videos, but I don't think I've watched one in a while, so I haven't seen any recommended in a while. But yeah, and you know, we usually wait until a system's been out for a good little while before we move on to that generation anyway. So I'm not planning on it anytime soon, but the pull is a little stronger this time because it's not a hypothetical game coming out, it's a game that's already out. And I really enjoyed Remake a lot. So we'll see. On that, I've really enjoyed this discussion. It is 10 o'clock. Since Sam was up until basically midnight last night, I don't want to cut out on you guys, but I talked about a lot of things I want
He
to
says
talk
as
about.
he cuts out on us.
I do, like a knife. I should be good for next week, and happy to have that discussion with you guys about what that will be later. But I want to thank everyone for listening, wherever you are on the internets, and may you too one day re-enter a game store with the same wonder you had the first time, and look around and be like, so many toys, and hopefully it's also filled with awesome, not gatekeeping people. So that dude was totally ready to get Craig into Warhammer 40K, and he's like, no. But
Lord.
you guys have a great night. My best to everyone, and I look forward to talking to you again.
Okay, Brian.
All right.
Hi, Brian. Yeah, I'm also going to be heading out here in just a little bit as well. And just to kind of like be like Brian, and Chewie in this, I occasionally a video for Rebirth shows up in my feed, and I just scroll right by it. I am trying to stay spoiler free as long as I possibly can, even though I really desperately want to click on it and see, you know, what's going on and everything. But I'm going to be a good boy. But I really hope that Square actually puts it out on PC in a year. I'd prefer sooner, but I know the exclusivity of the game is going to require, I think, at least 9 months.
And I really hope they don't do like they did with the remake and put it on the Epic Store for 6 months first. Oh my god, that
Yeah.
pissed me off.
Yeah.
I was like, I randomly Googled one day. I'm like, when is Final Fantasy Remake PC release? And it was like 3 days ago. And I went, what? I looked and it was Epic only, and I refuse to ever use the Epic Game Store because Epic sucks. So I was like, oh, come on.
Yeah. Again, I want to play Kingdom Hearts, but it's only on the Epic Store. And I did get it on the Epic Store, and I played and everything, but there's no trophies. None of you guys are there in order to be like, hey guys, let's see how you did in this. And to install and do all the stuff on Epic it's like an act of Congress.
Oh God.
And so I don't have an interest in doing that. So I mean, I own Kingdom Hearts on PC. I will probably never play it on PC, even though I desperately want to play it on PC at some point. But yeah, I'm right there with you that I want to play this. I really hope it comes out soon. I fortunately had a PS4 that was able to play Remake, but I do not own a PS5, and there really is no reason for me to get a PS5 at all, because we don't really, like, I play video games on my PC, and Chelsea plays it on her phone. Or now that the kids' PC's up and running, she'll play Minecraft or her stuff on the kids' PC. So there's no reason for me to get a PlayStation 5. Aside from, hey kids, here's a brand new game system that costs $500. Please don't break it. Talking to a 13-year-old, a almost 11-year-old, and an 8-year-old.
Yeah, there's still some danger breakage in there.
Yeah, so I have no interest doing it, and also anything and everything I'd want to play on it, I can just play on the PC, which does not cost me $500 to acquire.
Although,
So,
I tell you, Dirk, I really want a freaking Steam Deck. Like the new OLED Steam Decks. Oh,
if that's what you wanted, I mean, you go and do your thing, but it's a really souped up Wii, which means that it drinks the battery on it like it's Gatorade at a gym.
well, yeah, but you can hook it up to a television and play games through it on the television with a controller.
Okay.
Which means I could play my PC games without sitting at my PC, which is where I work.
Okay.
So, like, or sitting on the couch, hanging out with Renee while she's playing her Switch. I could be playing on the Steam Deck. And, because, like, I have a Switch, but I've got, I think, I don't know, 6, 7 games for it. And most of which I'm done with. So, like, And I don't want to buy a PS5 or 4 or an Xbox. I don't even know what current Xboxes are called.
1080.
Do what?
1080.
An Xbox 1080. Yeah, there we go.
I think it's Xbox X.
I think it's called Series X, I think.
Yes.
But, like...
Number than what I said.
But, like, I've already got all of these Steam games right here already that I own that I don't have time to play. But if I could play them on the couch or while I'm pooping, or
pooping on the couch,
or while I'm pooping on the couch, in Dirk's hypothetical one room apartment that we used to joke about, like,
oh man,
we would all be sitting around and be like, "Hey Dirk, switch places with me. I gotta poop."
Yes, that is true.
Oh God, I remember that randomly.
Mm-hmm. Brought to you by me. You're welcome. So yes, that is my final thought and everything. So with that, I'm off and I'm heading off to bed. So you all have a wonderful evening.
Night, Zerk.
Right, thanks. Good night.
Yeah, it's a shame Brian left, but, like, I love how nerds, by definition, get passionate about their hobbies. but I also don't love how they can't read the freaking room sometimes. And like the dude who, oh, you should totally play Warhammer 40. You don't just say that to a rando.
No.
Like, Warhammer 40k isn't a small hobby. Like, it's a freaking lifestyle decision.
No, yeah. To say that to someone who just walked in the door and clearly doesn't play anything, that means you've just been hanging around with other people who play tabletop war games too much.
Yeah.
Not everyone's like that.
Like, I don't say to my parents, oh, you'd love this game called Rogue Book. You should play it. Because they wouldn't and they won't. Like, what? Shut up. Mm-hmm. What are you, stupid? So, yeah, that made me giggle and also cringe really hard. Like, because I can get super technical and nerdy and into conversations about, like, lots of things, but I don't unless I know the other person is as deep into it as I do.
Yeah, it's like I was having a rough time of it earlier this week and late last week, and I was having to purposefully say, okay, stop, dial it back, but then I would just have to say something else, and it was all about like right before and right after seeing the second Dune movie, because like Ashley would ask me just like the simplest question, but then I would answer it. But then it would like open up this flood of, oh, also this, also that, also this, also that, also this, also that. It's like, oh gosh.
I really liked Dune 2.
Yeah. I enjoyed it a lot. We saw it on Saturday.
Yeah, me and Renee and Mom went to see it on Monday. I don't, I've seen a lot of YouTube nonsense that are like, Dune 2 has changed cinema overnight. No, it really didn't. It was just good. Like, Dune 2 is not gonna suddenly make cinema deeper and better, and they're not gonna be making those shallow Marvel movies anymore. Yes, they are. Like that. Shut up.
Yeah.
It was really good. It was not perfect. It was really good. It was damn good, but it wasn't like the second coming of Muad'Dib. Like, stop.
It was interesting, like watching it, and part one too. Some of the departures that I picked up on, and some of the departures that I found out later I did not pick up on, made me realize, wow, it's been a really, really long time since I last read the books, and there are some things that I just don't remember. Like in the first part, I think the biggest thing was when they introduced Dr. Kynes, and it just didn't strike me that they did a gender swap, because it didn't matter. It never mattered.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, interesting. But then, like, also at the end of part two, I was also remembering the David Lynch film, and I'm like, wait a minute, when was Paul's sister born?
Yeah.
In the book, I don't actually remember.
Yeah, there was a time skip in the book of years that just didn't happen in the second movie. Like,
yeah,
it's a time skip of maybe months. It's not even really a skip. It just sort of happens.
Yeah, but then like there was like Paul's sister by the end of the David Lynch movie, in some of those same scenes that happened in part two that just happened now, Alia was a character and like going around doing stuff. So I'm like, wait, I don't remember. I really don't remember.
Yeah, the David Lynch movie handles Alia pretty close to the book, if I remember correctly.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Like, she was a little girl who was running around doing stuff, as opposed to being
but
not
she was
a little
actually,
girl.
But she had actually been born by the end of the first novel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, when in the book, when Jessica took the water of life, the trauma of it caused Alia to be born.
Oh, I forgot that Ollie was born then. I thought she would just became aware then. Yeah, you're right. I had forgotten some stuff.
At least that's how it is in the David Lynch movie. I can't remember if that's the way it is in the book or not.
Okay,
Because
see,
it's
well,
been
I
even
guess
longer since I read the book. But it's something like that.
Uh-huh.
And that's why, after the 5-year or so time skip that happens in the book, Ollie is able to walk around and, poke people with a gum jabbar.
Okay, so it's not just me. It's like, wait, what?
Yeah. I've got the first 6 books right over there, but I haven't read past the first one in forever, and it's been a long time since I read the first one. In fact, I don't think I ever read 5 and 6.
I very rarely reread books. I think I did read the first one twice, but 2 through 6, I think I only read once each.
I remember the first Dune being really good. I remember Dune Messiah is like nothing happens.
It's almost like an epilogue.
Yeah. Well, I read recently that Frank Herbert wrote it because a bunch of people didn't seem to get that Paul was not the good guy.
Mm-hmm.
So he wrote Dune
And
Messiah to really hammer that home.
I didn't get it either because I read Dune Messiah. I read Dune Messiah, and Children of Dune when I was in middle school, so I just didn't get it.
Oh well, yeah.
Either. It wasn't until much later that I actually understood.
Yeah, I don't ever remember anything about Dune Messiah, and in fact, the sci-fi version of Children of Dune Messiah is just like the first episode, and it's the whole Dune Messiah, and then the rest is Children of Dune. I was huh?
It's a very short book, yeah.
Yeah, Children of Dune I remember being really good, and then God Emperor was so insanely, bizarrely, awfully weird that I just never read Heretics or Chapter House.
Heretics is not as eon spanning weird as God Emperor is. Chapter House is fine. It's like if you really want to see where the story went, it's like other stuff gets a little weirder and weirder as Brian Herbert started, quote unquote, helping more.
I'm never gonna read anything after Frank's 6, so.
Yeah. I read, I know I read the first 3 prequel books. House Atreides, House Harkonnen, and House Carino. I know I read the Butlerian Jihad. I can't remember whether I read the Machine Wars or whatever it was that came after that. And I don't remember whether I read any of the ones that they did that happened after Chapter House. I just don't remember. I know I have some on my shelf, but I don't know if I ever opened them up.
Yeah.
Like I got them for Christmas or something way back when.
Dune is very bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
I really did enjoy how Villeneuve was able to make it work.
Yes.
I also really like that Chani is the only person in the whole damn story that has any damn sense.
Yeah, that was a helpful departure for the movie to give her more characterization there.
But so I watched Dune twice in the week before going to see the sequel because I watched it once and then I watched it again because Renee was like, "Oh, I need to watch that before we go see the second one," and then she proceeded to sleep through most of it. So, so I ended up watching it twice in a week, and I really enjoyed the way. I guess spoilers for the end of Dune 1, but whatever. I really enjoyed the way, Paul was having these visions of Jamis. Is that his name? Jamis?
Yeah, Jamis.
Yeah. Who would say things like, "I will show you the ways of the desert. Come with me." And then he meets him, and they immediately have a duel to the death. And I was like, huh.
Yeah.
Turns out he did show him the ways of the desert.
Mm-hmm.
How about that?
But that's a really good hook to get you to start understanding that Paul is just seeing possible futures, not necessarily exact, what will definitely happen.
Yeah. Like,
Because no, we didn't end up getting the timeline where Paul and Jamis, become very good friends, and Jamis is an old man. That just didn't happen.
oh, see, I didn't even read it that way. I read it as his visions were all metaphorical. Like Jamis was saying, I'll show you the ways of the desert by making you kill me. And when, like, right before the fight, he has a vision of Jamis stabbing him, and the weird Bene Gesserit ancestor voices say, when you kill, you die. So, like, Jamis did kill him, essentially, by forcing Paul to kill Jamis.
Okay, neat. That hadn't struck me.
And like there were several bits like that. The only one I can't make work is the one where Jamis tells him to just, let go and go with the flow of the storm. I'm like, I got nothing on that one from the metaphorical reading of it. That one only makes sense from the alternate timeline thing.
That might, or that, if you wanted to abstract that, it could be with, stop resisting the fact that you're part of this big Bene Gesserit scheme and just use it to your advantage.
Yeah. Although he never did. I do appreciate how, until the very end, he never wanted to use it to his advantage. He kept being like, this is your teachings. This is an actual thing. Mm-hmm. And then finally he's like, screw it. I guess I'll do it. And I was like, ugh.
But, yeah, I mean, he was also raised to be the Duke. He was also raised to be a leader and inspire people and tell them what to do.
Ow. And be a massive dick. But yeah. I appreciated the look of GD Prime with its super, cool, like, black and white, washed out look. That was so cool. I'm not entirely sure I like what they... Like, people are, like, going off on how, they made Fade Ralph such a cool character. I'm like, did they? He's not much of a character.
Yeah, I mean, they just played up the, okay, he's crazy part.
Yeah. Like, that was...
He wasn't the, beautiful Fade,
Yeah, he was definitely not Sting in a bikini shorts. But, like... Like, I've seen a lot of people, like, Austin Butler played him so well, and I'm like, yeah, his performance was fine. It was good, even, but, like, the character itself was... Granted, Fade Ralph is not, like, a major character in the book, either.
No.
But, like, I've seen way too many people gushing about it for what I actually saw on the screen. Like... I'm like, he was good, he was fine, like, he was a crazy person... He killed a guy. He yelled about it. He did some bombing. They had a knife fight. All right. I don't see why people are, rubbing one off to this. But then that's what film nerds do, I guess.
Yeah.
And Dune fans are crazy because Dune is crazy.
Like, yeah, they are. And hey, I'm one of them. They are the real weirdos.
Yeah. Like, I've read at least 4 of the books. Exactly 4 of the books, in fact. And I think all but 4 I've read multiple times. I just could not bring myself to read God Emperor again. But like I also don't put myself in fandoms, really. So I liked it, but I'm not a fan of it in that way. Like, I was explaining to Renee, I think, why they don't just use, lasers. And then at one point, they start firing lasers. And I was like, what the...
Well, are you talking about when they were blowing up the spice crawler?
No, when they were tracking, not Gurney Halleck, freaking, Duncan Idaho, when he was flying around in his ornithopter trying to get away, that had a shield on it, and they're like trying to shoot him with a laser from the orbiting thing. And I'm like, you can't do that in Dune. It's got a shield around it. You can't do that.
Well, if they were firing on it from orbit, then I mean they didn't care.
I don't think it was actually from orbit, but I mean I don't think that the shield and lasgun reaction. I don't think the distance matters.
Yeah, and they just didn't go into that at all.
Yeah, I did notice it wasn't
in the
mentioned, but
movie.
it seemed a
But, I
little
mean,
silly to have all
when they
these
were-
dudes in a massive war with swords, and the really cool like projectiles that they did have, both the bombs that would like slow down and hit the shield and through it, and the ones that would poke the shield and then vibrate through it. Like those are really cool, and they had all of that. And then randomly there are some lasers sometimes. And I'm like, why isn't everyone using a laser? Well, you see,
Yeah.
that's because of this reason in the books. Well, then why are there lasers at all? I don't know!
Yeah, because like another explanation, like when they were attacking those sand crawlers in the deserts and blowing them up with lasers, like the reason the spice crawlers weren't shielded was because Holtzman fields attract worms and makes them go crazy for some reason. So that's why the spice crawlers weren't protected by shields, and that's why they were able to shoot at them with las guns.
Well, yeah, that part made sense.
Mm-hmm.
But it was the one where they were, like I said, chasing Duncan Idaho with a laser. I was like, it looks really cool, but it's nagging at the back of my head.
Yeah, that didn't throw a flag for me. I just wasn't thinking about it. I can't remember the circumstances.
But anyway, that was just a minor like nitpick I had with the first movie. Mm-hmm. That since I watched it twice in a row, really bugged me.
I mean, it's not like the explosion that happens isn't like world ending, because I remember in the novel when they were escaping their compound, someone, can't remember who, like purposefully turned on the house shields so that they would get hit by a straight las gun blast and cause an explosion to take out some of the Harkonnen and Sardaukar troops that were still crawling around.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's not world ending, but it is a death sentence for both the shield and the person holding the gun.
Yeah.
Anyway, now we're getting, this is what Mike was talking about. We're getting like deep in the nitty gritty.
Yeah. It's horrible.
So yeah, the way it works in the books is when shields were developed, everyone had to stop using the laser guns, because when a laser gun and a shield interacted, there was some sort of
I think it's called a subatomic fusion reaction.
There you go. That destroys both the shield and the person or thing that's inside it and the person holding the gun, and it's apparently instantaneous. So you can't like shoot, drop the gun. No, that's not how this works.
Yeah. It's not just those, there's also like an explosion.
Yeah. So that's why everybody is fighting hand to hand in these books and movies, because that's why. Mm-hmm. The arm, and that's why they've got the really cool things in this new movie that are built to go through shields, and that I really, really liked.
Yeah.
And it seemed like a bit of a waste that it was never explained, but then how do you explain it without it sounding like basic exposition? So
Right.
not that they cared about basic exposition in other places, you know, like the sand
As you
wall.
all know.
I did like that he caught himself mansplaining the sand walk to a natural born Fremen. Well, from what I've read, sorry. It's like, God, you're a dick. Shut up. Anyway, I guess we should probably stop, huh?
We should.
So do let us know what you think about power creep and charity stream and card games
We almost did a proper episode.
and Dune Part 2. Almost, I guess.
Yeah. Kind of the topical thread and the depth of the discussion.
Yeah. Which is better than some of our just chattings where We all just sort of sat here.
Yeah.
Are the card games on motorcycles? I feel like that's going to be a reference to something, but I don't know what. Also, hey,
Oh,
Dean.
I saw a trailer for Furiosa ahead of Dune Part 2. That was cool.
Ooh, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Nice. Who's doing that? Is it going to be crap?
I think it's George Miller again, isn't it?
Is it? Oh.
I thought it was.
Oh, it is. Sweet. As long as it's not a stupid cash grab, which is what it sounds like. Just, oh yeah, you remember Mad Max Fury Road? They're doing a spin-off movie about Furiosa. Lame. But if George Miller's doing it, then hopefully it won't get, shelved once it's done for a tax write-off.
No, I'm willing to believe that he's serious.
I mean, he's serious, yeah, but David Zaslav is a pile of ass.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And apparently, I answered a rules question accurately. Yay!
Cool.
In the Discord, it was asked essentially if I have a creature that has an equipment that gives it hexproof, and I have a creature with an enters the battlefield effect that exiles a permanent, and I have a thing that makes that trigger twice, can I shoot the equipment and then the creature? And I was like, no. Because they both have to target their things at the same time, and you can't target the first one before, or you can't target the second one before the first one resolves.
Mm-hmm.
So, no. And 14 was like, Chewie got it in one. Like, yeah, I'm a smart. I don't get them right terribly often, so when I do, I have to brag about it. But all right then. So, yeah, let us know what you think of, what was it? The charity stream. Please come to the charity stream. I've got so many games to give away, and I want to give away like an appreciable percentage of them. I probably won't, but I would like to. Not because I won't. I probably won't be able to, is what I'm saying. So the charity stream or card games or power creep. I did want to bring up Magic had a complexity creep problem more than a power creep problem, but we never got around to it, and then we moved on. And
Right.
What was the other thing? Oh, and Dune 2, I guess. Let us know what you thought of any and all of that. And hiccups. And of course, there's patreon.com/themanapool. You know the drill by now. Let me thank our mythic lifeguards: Al, Team Uhillas Haru, Scuzzo, Michael, John Parker, Andrew Odie, Jason Kaus, Casey, Jake Jansons, Jason Doan, Naurgh, Kim Ho, and ALK Alters. Yeah. So, yeah, I guess we're done. So this has been a Dorks Just Chatting for Pi Day. Yeah, March 14th, 2024, which still, to me, sounds like science fiction. I don't know why, but 2023 didn't sound like science fiction, but 2024 does sound like science fiction in my brain, and I cannot for the life of me figure out why.
Mm-hmm.
Like, obviously 2000 did, and then 2001 really did, because 2001 is science fiction. And then it sort of eased off for a bit. Whichever year that Skynet became active, or became self-aware, sounded like science fiction to me.
Right.
I forget what year that was now, but... And then 2020 I wish was fiction. And... It's been 4 years since the world ended, Mike. What the hell? I'm certain that so many of us still have horrible amounts of unprocessed trauma from that entire thing. You know, the thing itself and watching our leaders horribly screw up how to deal with it, and then watching stupid people refuse to do even the simplest of minor inconveniences for the good of all because my rights. Just look, I'm gonna get sad just thinking about it, or mad, or both. It's not quite 1500 yet, but it's very close. It's like 1470 something. March of 2020.
Uh-huh.
Hang on. You know what? I've got that open in a tab on my phone because I look it up so often. Today is March 14th. No, wait. March 1474, 2020. So March 1474th. But anyway, enough of all that. This has been a Dorks Just Chatting. Thank you all so very much for joining us. And charity stream March 23rd and 24th. And we're gonna go now. So have a good period of time, because I don't know when you're watching or listening to this. Oh, goodbye.